Sunday morning. This is going to be a great one, guys. I'm kind of excited. I'm in my new office. You'll see I even got a picture on the wall. I haven't been here long enough to replace it with bookcases like all the cool writers, but it'll get done someday. But we got with us today out of Colorado, we got Lou Berger, and he's just got a story published in uh, the
Clark's World.
Clark's World,
Yep.
and so there's 50,000 people out there right now just saying, "Oh my God, I just read a Lou Berger story right next to a Brenda Clough story."
Yep.
It's gotta be a good day for them guys.
Yep.
And also, we have Ken Scholes. Now, Ken Scholes is one of my oldest and bestest friends in the Northwest writing community. Him and his tribe has been one of the groups that I just love to death. They're just no ifs, ands, ors, or buts. So say good morning, Ken.
Good morning, Ken.
Good. Hey, Ken. You got two 14-year-old daughters, right?
They will be on Friday.
Well, you're going to sing us a song, so why don't you tell us about what you're going to sing us?
This is a song that I wrote when they were born. And if you go digging around on YouTube, you can find a black and white video of me singing this. Marty McKenna filmed me singing it at my university bookstore book signing for Antiphon way back in 2010. So I'm going to sing this song. It's coming out in probably the next month. It'll drop when my music publisher gets it. We're still working the last bits of this one. It's an older song, but right now I'm getting all my old stuff recorded. So here we go. Make sure I'm in the right. Yep. Look down there. She has your blue eyes, and she has my red hair. Look what you made. Not so long ago, I wrote and sang for you a song about our first date. It's funny how time goes fast and slow. It's funny how love can grow and grow, fill up all hollow, empty space. And evolution's dazzling wonder show. It's only mystery I need to know. See it in that smile on your face when we danced. The world just watched us waiting for a chance to see you when you loved. I found everything that I'd been dreaming of. Look what you did. It's funny how small can be so great. It's funny how destiny and fate can feel so real in certain intersections. Oh no, I'll take the chaos, the random chance of evolution's dazzling disco dance. For people moving in the same direction. What we made. It's funny how time moves fast and slow. It's funny how love can grow and grow, fill up all the hollow, empty spaces. Evolution's dazzling wonder show. It's the only mystery I need to know. I see it in those smiles on their faces. Look what we made. Two little girls between us, and I can't wait to see how they grow. See how they grow.
Well done,
Thank
sir.
you.
Well
Thank
done.
you. It's coming through okay sound wise?
Yeah, it sounded a little like Cat Stevens, but that heart, that's coming right.
Thank you. That's my that's what I do. I've been doing a little bit more of that lately than writing new stories, because I had 30 years of music laying around that I'd done nothing with in my mad pursuit of writing. But thanks for letting me do that. It's those girls, they anchor my life in ways I never imagined could happen. So
Yeah. I like to think of my own experience of my whole life is that I was a waste of space on the planet until I had my daughter, and then I became a dad, and that my life since becoming a dad has been a life of service and grace and learning how to be a better human being. And before that, I don't even recognize the guy that I was before that.
I mean, I started when I left the ministry, started working on a bunch of stuff, but I still didn't understand that there was an entire continent of love and understanding beyond the parenting window. You walk through that door,
Yep.
and if you pay attention, you become an entirely different human.
Yep.
But yeah. So they're great. They're a great joy in my world. They're downstairs doing teenage girl things, watching YouTubers and whatnot.
Oh, Dad.
You taking them to Barbie yet?
We are interested in seeing it. We're probably going to wait for it to stream. We just saw Elemental, which was more like that was what they really wanted to see, was the new Pixar. So, but I know we're going to watch Barbie. They may not be as into it as I will be, but their father can't wait to see Barbie.
Well, I can tell you this. I took my 14-year-old granddaughter.
Did she like it?
And her partner.
Yeah.
Or, what I don't know the right words these days. But took them, and they loved it. Then we went to Dairy Queen, and we deconstructed it, talked about the concepts and everything.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And there's nothing more special than walking in to the movie theater, getting up at the head of the concession line with your 14-year-olds, raising your fist in the air and screaming at the top of your lungs, "Barbie rocks!"
Right. I saw your post about it, and I can't wait to see the film. So,
it's going to be fun. But you brought up the good point. We're talking today about the Muse, the inspiration, and you don't have to dig far into music or writing to find out where family and emotional events, and I'll just call it the big emotional events that separate us from the AIs, that make us human, provide a lot of reasons to write. But what are you guys' thoughts on that? I was loving what you were saying.
Ken, you're more published than I am. I want to hear what you have to say.
I mean, so I've had a lot happen in the last several years, and so I left the ministry in the 90s, and I returned to writing. I had been writing stories in high school, and I'd been I'd been corresponding with Ray Bradbury. I had an English teacher who took me under her wing. I also had a choir teacher who took me under her wing, and I had no idea I was turning into a musician, right? I was turning into a writer. I was turning into all these things. I think what I've come to recognize is that we go to the same space. And I do now these days, I don't just use my creativity to write stories and write songs. I'm also coaching people. So anybody listening, if you're stuck or lost and you're wanting an hour of Ken to talk about it, you just need to send me a message. If you're not a Facebook friend of mine, do what Lou did and send a note along with your request. So that tells me people are able to see that it says send a note. Because what happens is otherwise you get hit with all of these people, and they have thousands of friends in common with me, but they're just spamming everybody to get their lists, right? And I'm interested in connecting with real humans. But what I've come to realize is that we go to the same well inside of ourselves, whether it's a story, a comic book, a piece of art, a song, a solution to a problem we're facing in our real life. The invention and innovation and imagination and inspiration that humans experience, it's the same soup, the same well, and we all learn to go to it and draw from it and make our thing, whatever that thing is we see in the well. Maybe it's an airplane, maybe it's a poem, maybe it's how we solve the problem of racism, but all of it comes from the same well of human understanding that you have to get to under the noise of what it is to be a human. But that's my take on it, and I'm curious to hear y'all's thoughts.
You want me to go, Bob? You want to talk about yours?
Lou, we're here to hear from you. They can hear from me
anytime they want. Any damn time they want.
Get off my lawn.
Exactly.
I think that's the last Sunday when David Gerald's here.
Yeah.
He's a get off my lawn guy.
I love that, man. I love that, man. I think for me, the Muse, it's not, I don't know how, I know how it's depicted in literature. It's like these graceful women with flowing gowns, and they, touch you gently on the forehead. And mine walks in, with a leather bandolier and punches me in the face and says, "You will write this story." And the whole story shows up usually in just a flash. And I'm very fortunate. Sometimes I just get a scene, just one scene that's like, oh, that's a great scene. And then what I have to come up with a story that goes around it. And that sometimes can be soul searching. That sometimes takes a long time to stitch together. But for me, I think the Muse shows up and it doesn't just show up because I think it's cool. It shows up because I think there's to refer to what Ken said, there has to be a contact with our actual base humanity. Who are we as human beings on this planet? And when you get to that level, there are only a couple questions. Why am I here? Which is also a religious question. What good can I do? Because who contemplates the alternative to that, right? Who does? Don't answer that, Bob. I know you have some ideas. I know you have some ideas. And how can I make somebody else's burden lighter? Not because we want our burden to be lighter. We don't want someone to step in and make our burden lighter, but there's something about the human brain that releases brain chemicals, the endorphins, the feelings of having accomplished something good when we do something selfless. And we know we've done it selflessly. We don't do it. I'm not a religious follower. And Ken, I know that you've struggled with that.
Yeah. I'm an ex-religious follower, and
yes.
Now I'm a liver, but I'm not a spotted liver.
I understand the difference. I get the difference. But I believe that the basic philosophy of who we are and the fact that our brains respond well when we do something selfless for other people, we do get rewards out of doing charitable works. We do. We feel good about ourselves. And in feeling good about ourselves, we create an aura, not a supernatural aura, but an aura of well-being that people are drawn to. They're attracted to that aura, and they want to be part of that. And they mimic what you do. Like, I'll take that shopping cart. I'll park my car. I'll get out of the car. I'll grab the closest shopping cart, even if it's in a corral, and I'll wheel it in to the store, and I'll use it, and I'll leave it in the store and huck the bags all over back to my car without leaving that cart out there. Nobody sees me do that. I only do it because I feel good. The one teenage kid with the spindly arms doesn't have to take that cart in. That's enough for me, So the Muse for me, isn't gentle, frequently ignores me, but when I'm under her focus and under her spotlight, it's intolerable. It's overwhelming.
Initially, I thought, wow, Lou has a BDSM dominatrix muse. I was like, okay, well, I've not heard of this kind of muse before, but I wouldn't mind a muse that tied me up and told me, "You're gonna tell a story now, Mister."
Tell a story.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's very cool. I used to call my muse Leroy, my inner redneck, and I even had art. Somebody drew a picture of him. I had him hanging in my house. But there's a time when I had to kind of focus on an object to project into. But once I kind of let that go and integrate it a little more, but yeah, I absolutely. And you and I, it sounds like it sounds like we're very much pointed in similar directions as to how we go about living, how we go about seeing. I find myself to be a scoop ram.
A what?
A ram scoop. A ram
Yes.
scoop.
Yes, getting little particles
gathering up
and making fire.
Life, all the life. And I never know when a thing, for instance, Bob, you invited me to the Space Force anthology a few years back. And I knew I wanted to write something for it. I knew that that there was a powerful story inside of me about my life that wanted to come out. So I took myself out to the woods and I slowly wandered a forest, reacquainting myself with all of my cousins there, the trees, the moss, the bugs, the birds, the animals, the quiet of a pre-dawn sky. And somewhere I have that tie actually stopped. The moment that story showed up, Bob, that I eventually wrote and sent you, I actually paused and gave a little talk in the woods about how that story found me. But the story completely just showed up with enough oomph that you get the car rolling and it'll get started going down the hill. And that ability to kind of scoop ram life in and then turn it into a story or a song or a proposal or an idea or a new idea of something Lou and I could do in the Tri-Cities that might be amazing.
Yep.
Right. And there was nothing 2 hours ago. I didn't even know about. I knew Lou as a guy.
That's a guy.
I could see getting in a car and riding up the Tri-Cities with Lou already, coming up with something awesome to tell people, you just wait and show up. You pay your money at the door. You're going to like what we give you.
Right.
Anyway.
And he's referring to a yet to be announced, yet to be planned, yet to be venued talk where him and Lou are going to come up and talk about the Muse in the Tri-Cities. And it's going to happen. I just don't know when. And I don't know how, but I can't think of two people I'd rather listen to over a weekend while we talk about this kind of stuff. But I'm going to comment a little bit on that story Ken sent me.
Uh-oh.
It ripped my head off, popped my brain out, bounced it off the walls a few times, peeked inside, dropped a couple of notions in there, put it back in sideways, and then I had to try and edit it. And I will tell you, it was deep is a word we may have used when we were younger. Really deep, man. But you know what? It was, and when I got done, I laughed at myself over how much, how hard it was for me to get my head open enough to really get that story. But once I did, I recognized that Ken, you sent me something brilliant.
I think that what happened was that the bits of my story, as that kid in the trailer who grew up homophobic and terrified and with all these beliefs that have been pushed into me, and that kid who loved Edgar Rice Burroughs and loved the idea of being able to breathe on Barsoom, and all of those things, I think it all coalesced. But you helped me find that, Bob, because you invited me. For me, the creation process is a call and a response. And you called, you said, hey, I want a story and I want it to be about the Space Force. And we're doing a political satire and there's depth to it. And then so you made the call, then the response ushered up from inside of me, from life, right? And then pow, I have everything that I need and I give you that story. And I think it's the best story I wouldn't say best. I would say it's the most reflective story of my complete journey from being a fundamentalist when I got started with all of this writing nonsense to being who I am now. So I love that you helped me birth that story into the world, Bob. It wouldn't have happened if you hadn't come up to me at John's memorial, which John, loves. John would be delighted that you invited me. It's like, if anybody's going to get story opportunities at a funeral, it ought to be me at John's funeral. So he would say that. And that story is, I love that you had me write it for you.
I begged you to, because here it was. This was the last. That book also contains the last story I ever bought from John.
Yep.
John Pitts sold us the first story in the book. He sent it over. We looked at it, and it was like, oh my God, how could we not buy it? Bought it. And we have you, Manny, and John.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We're memorialized together in Space Force.
I love that. And it sold me instantly. And somebody's asking, Dale, I probably am. I don't know anybody off the top of my head named Muscle Scholes, but all of the Scholeses, for the most part, come out of Leeds, near Leeds in West Riding, Yorkshire. So depending on where they were, where they came from, and if you want to follow up, just send a note with a friend request so we can chat more. So
I think he's probably going to play on words.
I'm going to ask a question of you guys. I'll start with Lou. Give me a couple of sentences on Ray Bradbury.
Oh, I love Ray Bradbury. He's one of my three influences. He writes songs like Rembrandt paints pictures, but he paints pictures with words that touch the very heart of what it means to be human, which we talked about, Ken, just recently. It transcends race, gender, political bent, all of those things that we use to other ourselves from other humans. But Ray Bradbury could get to the very heart of what makes us tick, and what we love, and what we fear, and what goes bump in the night, and what keeps us going when there's no hope.
And didn't he coin kind of that whole genre of social science fiction, where it's really about the people and about their feelings and about how they're doing?
I don't know, but I would believe it.
So Ray Bradbury, my mom was an Avon lady in the small town where I was, and she would drag us around with her. And somebody made the mistake of loaning me a book.
Which one?
Back when I was 10 years old, 11 years old. It was this book, which I never returned, called On Writing by Writers. And they loaned it to me because I was a bored kid with nothing to do. And they said, oh, you can take it home with you, and your mom can just bring it back whenever Nope. Don't loan Ken books. Nope. I still have it, though. I still have it. But what's really great about this book is it had the essay in it, How to Keep and Feed a Muse, which turned me on to Ray Bradbury. So I wrote him a letter, and he wrote me back.
Oh.
And I have my letter from Ray Bradbury encouraging me to write 1,000 words a day when I was 16.
Oh.
I wrote him when I was 14 or 15. It took a while for him to write back, but I have a couple of letters from him that I keep here to remind me.
That red book right there is the collected short stories of Ray Bradbury, right?
I have that. Is it the big hardback?
Yep.
I have it too downstairs. But yeah, he was what brought me in and made me want to be a writer. And now it ends up that I think my work may be following a slightly similar path, in that I feel like my role is to just look at humanity around me and then capture it as best I can. And speak to that, having human people, or people based on human people, at least, solving problems and trying to get better.
Yep.
So I love Bradbury, but I also loved about him that he was mostly a short story guy.
Yes.
He did a few novels, and I've done 5 novels. I don't ever need to do another novel, but if I do, I do. I just didn't enjoy it. I love writing short stories.
I'm in the same way. I've not yet written a novel. I'm stuck a quarter of the way in 4 different novels. I've got the first quarter written, and it just feels to me too big. And that's an excuse. And anybody who's a fan of mine and listening, I'm sorry. It's hard for me, but short stories seem to be the right fit. I can hold all of it in my head at one time.
It's middle muddle, man. And I had the same issue. It was, I get these starts and I get like 20,000, 25,000 words in, and then suddenly, And it's, yeah, no, remember what got me out of that was Jay Lake daring me to write a novel. He dared me, and he attached some teeth to it. He said, if you finish this by World Fantasy, I'll introduce you to all the editors and agents I met when I was marketing mainstream to the world. And it was a great bet. And so I jammed out that first draft of Lamentation in about 6.5 weeks. And I didn't realize it was going to get me stuck with a 5-book contract I had to honor. It's been 10 years trying to write 5 novels that I didn't really want to write. I did. I mean, I love having written them. And I'd love to go back at some point and write more novels if they show up for me. But yeah, I love short stories. That's like a trip to Mexico, long weekend in Mexico, as opposed to the slow marriage in the Sahara of a novel.
Complete with the sniping. No, you drink from the oasis first.
Yeah,
you need it more. No, I don't need it more. You need it more. I've heard nothing but you being thirsty for the last 30 miles. No, you drink it. I don't need that. I don't need any of that.
So, guys, Ray Bradbury is part of your Muse.
Yeah. So Simon and Garfunkel for me. I mean, if I'm needing to get work done, if I'm needing to write a story and my joints are a little stiff, I put on my headphones and I put on Simon and Garfunkel, and I'm back. So
the feelings I get listening to The Boxer, which is a lamentation of the human condition that ends with a cry of agony because no matter what happens, it's just you're alone and you're on your own. And the feeling of America, where she falls asleep and he's looking out on the moonlit fields. And of course, the most important song, I think, in my entire life, Bridge Over Troubled Water, and the message that gives about having daughters.
Yeah. What does love look like?
Yeah.
What does love really look like in the world? When you're weary, feeling small, when tears are in your eyes, I'll dry them all. But yeah, no, that was the song that brought me to Simon and Garfunkel, because when I was a lad, the healthy man in my life was my older brother, 15 years older than me. And I would go up to his room and listen to Simon and Garfunkel with him as a toddler. Didn't even know it. And then later in life, Simon and Garfunkel would come on and I would feel awash with peace.
Yes.
My brother died when I was 4. But by 6, 7, 8 years old, Simon and Garfunkel would come on and I'd feel awash with peace. Eventually I inherited his 8-track of Bridge Over Troubled Water.
You wear it out.
And then here we are. I do. As a matter of fact, if you go looking, Lou, on my YouTube channel, you can find me doing a tribute of Paul Simon songs for his birthday in October. I did like an hour's worth of Paul Simon on my guitar. So
yeah, that's beautiful. Art Garfunkel and I share the same birthday, not the birth year, but the birthday. And that's so right. I've always wanted to meet him. And I heard he was humble beginnings, a math teacher in Michigan, I think is what it was. And then, he and Paul didn't get along. And Paul, you can see, Paul's got a beautiful soul, but he's also a rapacious capitalist. And I get that. I totally get that. But I just think art as just being pure heart.
It's been an interesting thing because they were best friends in grade school and high school, right? In New York. And that's pretty beautiful. But Paul, there's a depth to Paul. Like if you listen to his song "Only Living Boy in New York,"
love that song,
right? And he's talking about art. I mean, they're Art Garfunkel, because they used to be called Tom and Jerry, and he's singing, "Tom, get your plane on time. I know your particle fine." He's going to go down and be in Cap 22 down in Mexico with.
That's right. And that I forget the name of the actor who wrote that story where that song was prevalent. He wrote a movie.
It's Garden State.
Garden State,
where they're singing it's playing when they're into the abyss.
Into the abyss, right? Into the abyss, and that song is playing, and it just gave me chills because what's that guy's name? Brash, right? Zach?
Yeah, right. See, Bob's probably gonna have to let me close with a Simon and Garfunkel song now. I mean, where we're headed.
I'd stick around to listen to that.
Yeah.
Zach Braff. Yeah, he wrote it. Zach Braff. He started it.
Oh my goodness, I love that movie.
And he said, it'd be great in a perfect world we could get Natalie Portman. There's no way she'll do it. Sent the script. She said yes.
Mm-hmm.
How awesome is that?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I think it's how it works. I think it bubbles up, and then other people who are real recognize that they're also a part of the interconnected nature of it all. They pop up and say, "I'd like to be in this life thing too."
Yep.
I so how oh God, I had a question in my brain, but you guys were just so real. You made me hit the flush button. Ah,
It happens, man.
I know, man. It's terrible. So talk about we talked about the joy, the emotion, children, marriage. Um, what is the dark side of the muse that comes to us from loss, betrayal, anger? Um, where
Grief.
does that take us? Where does that go?
It depends on what we do with it. I mean, I think that it all comes down to the artist and how they, like, you're probably never going to get me to turn into a Rage Against the Machine kind of guy. Like, I'm not going to probably crank out that kind of music or that kind of lyric. I'm just not. I'm a let's love one another as best we can and let our understanding rise. And as our understanding goes up, so will the quality of our experience. And so that's kind of where I live. And when the big change for me, actually, Bob, was the difference between my dealings with Jay's loss and my dealings with John's loss. There was a gap of 5 years, but in that time, I had a big change of heart and direction in my life. And before that, when Jay died, it felt like every human loss was a tree falling in a forest. Loud, dangerous potentially, scary, very noticeable. And then I had that loss with Jay was very loud, very dominant, but a shift happened in me that everything else had also changed. And when John died, it didn't feel like a tree fell in the forest, even though it was a much more significant loss in my life. At that point, I saw loss as a cyclical seasonal event that we are all required to participate in. And it was a leaf on a tree, the human tree. And one of those leaves went, John. But all these other leaves are still there, and more leaves are coming, and more leaves are going. And it is noticeable because we see the beauty of the shift, and we feel the loss of, oh, now the tree is bare, but it's doing what it's supposed to do. It just happened sooner than we wanted it to. We were all gonna die. John was always gonna die. I'm gonna die. But our egos hate that. So we turn it into a negative, right? That's a bad thing to be avoided. Well, good, because then you won't maybe pick up that spider and get bit or eat that mushroom and get killed. But I don't see any of it as good or bad or negative or positive. The loss, the tragedy, it's all a part of it. Wouldn't feel like loss if it weren't for so much love. It wouldn't feel like sadness if there weren't so much happiness. It's all this one coin that just keeps flipping for me. So that's my take. I just take it on the chin. I've experienced more loss and betrayal than I could even ever describe between my family and where I come from. But I've also experienced more joy and delight and wonder than I ever imagined I could.
Ken, I'm just gonna say, if you were here, I'd lean over and give you a great big hug. That's just fucking beautiful, and it helps me understand.
Alan Watts. So somebody just mentioned Alan Watts. That's where Manny was my one friend in all of this when things shifted for me, who said, you should really go read some Alan Watts. And I did. And it started me down the research path. So anyway, sorry. I just saw that in the comments over here.
Well, I have to have you and Manny on someday. The leaf on a tree is a new concept I'd never heard voiced this way before. And I like it. It solidifies a whole bunch of things that float through my mind occasionally as I ponder loss. Thank you. That was beautiful.
You bet.
Now, Lou, you know this about B Cube Press. I love redemption. Redemption for me, redemption stories are the best. I mean, um, how do you see? Do you see when you look at a story and say, "I got a character, I want to redeem them"? Does that fit into your writing style at all?
Oh yeah, the latest story I've got out at Clarksworld right now is entitled "Death and Redemption," somewhere near Tuba City. And I wanted to write a story about Tuba City, though I've never been there, because what a great name for a city, Tuba City in Arizona. And it's near another city, another populated place called Rare Metals. So Rare Metals is adjacent to Tuba City, and my writer brain wants to link, are the metals what they use to make tubas in Tuba City? I don't think that's the case at all. But redemption for me is the infinite power we have as human beings to forgive other human beings for their trespasses. And they trespass against us. And sometimes they do so inadvertently. I'm on the autism spectrum. I create angst in people. One of the people that are in our audience, Dale, I'm convinced Dale has me blocked from something that we talked about some years ago. And I'm just persona non grata to Dale. And I'm okay with that because that's part of being autistic. A little too blunt, a little too direct, a little too, I don't couch things well. I'm not gentle. And as I go into the good night, if you say something stupid, I tend to do what Drax does in Guardians of the Galaxy and say, "You're an imbecile." And I don't mean it. I just mean that's stupid what you said. But redemption for me is our infinite capacity to find another way of thinking, another way of seeing another person's plight, and the framework within which they live, which is so foreign to us, because how else can we learn to hate, becomes understandable if we just pause and ask the questions and find out that they're living in a hell of their own. And we had no idea because on the surface, we all look very placid. We're all very compliant. We get along well in society with others. But at heart, we never know what the other person's carrying.
That's very true. I think that's beautiful, beautifully expressed.
Thanks.
Okay, guys, who's going to lead us in Kumbaya right now?
I mean, if you want to take a 2 or 3 minute break, I'll sing another song. But
no, we're going to save you for the end.
right.
But I'm you. This is I just know. I think I need to shut up and let you two talk. You're
my work, most of my stories are, I mean, Isaac is a redemption story, right? Lamentation, the whole Psalms of Isaac. But I think for me, I have always been, early on when I was writing, Manny and I became friends. And Manny's a journalist, and Manny's great at asking interview questions. One of the early questions I remember him asking me was, "Why do you write?" And I told him, "I write so that I can know myself." And my writing for me, and my music too, have ended up being tools that I use to excavate my own soul and to heal and redeem myself. And so out of that, any character I've ever written has been me being redeemed. Any character that's lost, even if I think there's somebody else, it's me that I'm redeeming through that story. And I also discovered in adding up the inventory that about 2/3 or more of my work is apocalyptic or post-apocalyptic, which makes sense given my childhood. And within that, I've got stories set in hell. And at the beginning of my hell stories sequences from my early writing, they're stuck in hell, but they find ways to make it bearable. My last hell story has them stealing an airplane and escaping. And so you can see the redemption. But I think all of my work, the story you bought, Bob, that's a redemption story. I mean, it's the main character he's doing the 12 steps at the end of his career and realizing that he's come up short and that he's getting ready to retire and that he's not made the world a better place. He's made the world a worse place. And that he's done that by not being true to who he really was and by serving a lie. And so I think it's one of the reasons that we all do so well probably is that we're all big on redemption. and believe that we all, I mean, one of my early Clark's World stories was Summer in Paris, Light from the Sky, which is my story about Hitler as a painter in Paris, meeting Ernie Hemingway and Chuck Chaplin, and trying to get involved with the whole Bonaparte regime in the 1940s Paris. So,
oh my God, I gotta go find that.
Same.
it's out on Clark's World. It's still there. Okay, they bought it, and I think it was the only story I ever had that got close to an EPA. It's also the first story that anybody ever wanted to reprint in a foreign language, and it was Israel that wanted to buy it, which shocked them.
Wow.
In hindsight, there are stories that I wrote in my pursuit of redemption that I might be too scared to write today, based on, you know, that fear thing that pops up that says maybe I shouldn't show what's really going on in here. Because back then I had no filter on that.
What do you think draws people to your writing in the first place, if not the filterless insight into who you truly are?
Right? I mean, right, exactly. Yeah. So it's not my job to draw anybody to anything. I just got to be me and just keep being me and let life do life while I do life.
We should normalize vulnerability and the fact that we all are dirty on the inside, a little bit, in some ways, at least in our own minds, because our dirt might be somebody's revelation.
There you go. And somebody was asking, it's called Summer in Paris, Light from the Sky. And it's on Clark's World website. So, and in my collections, of course. But
Wow. Because I can tell you, we had a writer. I think her name was Paula Hammond. She wrote a story that for End Games. There's a story about a Donald Trump.
mm-hmm.
Donald Trump who went to Vietnam. A Donald Trump who found all of those leadership skills that we can like to think he doesn't have, but he does have. And all of his personality got focused towards the positive. And it was his retirement dinner as one of the most loved military leaders by his men. And you can talk about the notion, but sometimes it's just a turn of a dime that separates people winding up as Hitler, Jew killer, hater, warmonger, and Hitler, painter, looking and trying to see inside of things. And so the fact that you were able to pull that story together, the fact that she was able to pull that story together and made you read it and made you want that story to be. That's probably when I read a good redemption story, it sounds silly, but you just want that story to be.
I think we all long for that. I mean, Paul Simon said in one of his songs, I want my shot at redemption. Don't want to end up a cartoon in a cartoon graveyard.
Bone diggers. Yep.
Dogs in the moonlight.
Yep.
Right? So.
Well, I know I could turn to Ken right now and say, sweet is the song I sing today, for I'm redeemed.
I don't know that one, but unless it's redeemed how I love to proclaim it. I just did Trailer Boy Church this morning, so I've got the Baptist hymnal that I stole from my old church.
You and returning books seems to be, there's a pattern there, my friend. There's a pattern.
Do you have any books you'd like to loan me at the moment, Lou?
Absolutely not.
I know, right?
I've got somewhere in
They're
here.
not loaned, they're given.
I considered converting to Catholicism in 1997 or 98, and I went to sit down with a priest, and he loaned me his book on the Virgin Mary and said, I just really want to make sure you return this book to me. I have it downstairs.
I bet you do.
I stole it from a Catholic priest.
Well, you can't go back. They talk. They all talk to each other.
I ended up becoming an Episcopalian briefly, and they didn't loan me any books, so...
I have 3 books of
3
Mormon.
Hail Marys and yeah.
I have 3 books of Mormon on the shelves behind me, all of them right next to each other, each of them inscribed gloriously by a friend of mine who is a member of the LDS Church, and they were gifts to get me to come on and here's the thing, read the book and come join us, we'll talk. And it's not for me. The formalized religion's just not for me, and there's nothing wrong with it. I don't think anybody else who believes that it is part of the nature of their humanity and who they are, that glory to them. It's just not for me. But I love the fact that they wrote beautiful inscriptions to me, telling me that they saw something in me that was compelling and something that they wanted to share with somebody with whom they wanted to share the greatest things of their lives. That's what they were saying.
Yeah.
Wow. Hmm.
I mean, it is when I was in the worst of my being a Southern Baptist preacher, my intentions were absolutely the best. I mean, I really just wanted people to not die and go to hell. I mean,
Yep.
and really, I mean, if you seriously believe that a person who doesn't believe this is going to be tormented for eternity, and you do nothing. I mean, I wrote songs about what happens when you do nothing, and so I had this whole strong, oh my goodness, but yeah, no, what a great conversation. I'm glad, Bob, you're wonderful at introducing people to people. I would never have met Lou if it hadn't been for you. And I love this man. He and I need to road trip to Tri-Cities together with guitars and snacks and books. And we need to come have a partay in Kennewick. Ooh, that's what we call it. Partay in Kennewick.
I live in Richland now.
We don't tell people that. Don't tell them you're in Richland. Kennewick sounds so cool. It's got Ken in it.
Oh, okay.
Is there a place with Lou in it where we could do part of it so that there's not Kenaloo? Louisiana. Kenaloo. There you go. That could be the name of our retreat, the Kenaloo. You're going to come to the Kenaloo. Though people are going to think that's some kind of weird, bizarre toilet.
The Gospels of the Kenaloo.
There we are.
Well, you see the T-shirt I'm wearing is my Alternative Theologies.
Yes.
A book that is regretfully that neither of you were in. But I will tell you, we're doing a new version of the Alternative Theologies, and I think when that time comes, we shall kick it off with that workshop, the Kenaloo workshop, and we will be doing it. And I am going to be actively looking for a good venue. And then I'm going to let you guys convince me when, and we're just going to do it. Okay?
Let's do it. I love the venue you had last time. It had a pool. It had everything was there. I don't remember what place it was.
Turned it into a apartment complex now.
Oh, well, those folks are probably not going to be excited about us showing up then. We're here to take over your club room.
Do we have to tell them?
Not really. Not if it's me and Lou. I mean, we just show up in our chicken suits with all our gear, and they're all going to get excited.
I'm more formal. I wear a penguin suit, but thank you.
Oh, yeah, no, that's cool. No, penguins are awesome. I love them. And penguins and chickens do famously together, I've told.
We would be people most foul.
Oh, God. I think I've created a monster here. But I tell you, it is a wonderful time to have you guys here. But let me shift into something. Right now, BQ Press is working on a number of projects. And I have finished reading Scott's Planet's going to be out in the fall. It's a story of 1300, and Lou's in it. He just hasn't sent me the story yet.
I have not.
How's that for gotcha on there, Lou?
Tinker Tetsu and the Donkey That Lived. That's the name of the title of the story. And you're going to love the story, but I have to get it too.
Yeah. So anyway, we're staying busy. I have moved. And so I have been, I went on a 25-day book tour and moved at the same time. So I haven't done squat in a while. It's good to be back in the writing and editing mode again. And so those of you who are looking for somewhere to submit, right now, the best place I can tell you to submit is at BQ Press. We have a book out there called Alternative Truths, Southern Edition. Bless their hearts.
Oh, that's the one I think that's the one you were asking, because my East of Eden and Just a Bit South is a Southern story about how Cain and Abel found their wives. Maybe that's the one I'm supposed to send to you on, Bob. Sorry to interrupt.
I think he froze.
I froze him with the power of my words.
You did. He is struck dumb.
Who, Ken,
And
are you?
not dumb like stupid, but muted.
Now he's back.
Voiceless.
Okay, great.
Useless.
Well, we got a brief error message. So anyway, it's out on Moksha, Southern Edition of the Alternative Truths, because I can tell you what, there is no politician that needs to be satired more than your good old Southern politicians. Can I say Sarah Sander Huckabee, wanting to make 16-year-old bartenders? Bless her heart.
Bless her heart. Bless her heart. Yeah. Well, I grew up in.
So let's get your stories in. Now, Lou, what have you got coming up that you want people to be aware of?
Well, right now, I'm really super proud of that Clark's World story. I put the link in the general chat to Ken's story, also in Clark's World. Mine's current, so mine's there this month. And if you haven't read anything of mine before, I'd love for you to dip your toe in the water of the Lou J. Berger writings and check that one out. It's free. Just go to the Clark's World website for this month, and you'll see my name and click on the title, and you'll read the story. I really enjoyed working with Neil. That was my first publication in Clark's World. And the next story I've got to write and have finished is the one for Bob for the Scott's Planet. And then I've got another one that I'm going to send to Writers of the Future. And then
you're going to have a couple more for me because we got more stuff coming.
That's
and
right.
Ken, you're always welcome. And Ken, I would like you to be thinking about what you're going to sing, because I'm going to let you take us out of here with a song.
All right. Well,
so give us your last. Say hello to the kids. Are they still downstairs?
They're still downstairs. They're doing their dance.
All right. So and Lou, thank you very much. And so I'm going to let Ken dominate it.
Lou, why don't you and I make sure we schedule some chat time?
I'd love that.
I'd love to video chat with you in the next week if we can make it happen.
I can. I have a day job, but I'm on the Zoom all the time anyway. There's no reason we can't slip something in there. I'll send you a DM.
I'm on Zoom too, and I got the day job. My day job is 5 a.m. till 1:30 in the afternoon. Okay. So I get free pretty early in the day. So for my life, I'm gonna go ahead. I thought about doing Simon and Garfunkel. Pardon?
Don't leave when this chat is over. We're gonna talk a little bit afterward.
Okay, perfect. I won't leave after we're done then. And Bob, I think that I need to send you. I think you froze when I was saying this, but your Southern thing. I think that's what we were talking about, because I was telling you that my Cain and Abel story is set in the South. It's a reimagining. We all lived in trailers before the big flood. But I'm going to go ahead and do my new song that's going to drop, because Bob, you were talking about the leaves and the trees. This song talks about that. The song's called Loved Along the Way. And it's actually in the inspection queue with CD Baby, which means that it should release in the next few days and be out on all the platforms. So here we go. I know it's all supposed to go. That's the way that nature flows. Leaves they come, leaves they go. It's hard to say goodbye. No one ever wants to go. That's the way that nature flows. People come, people go. But you know, you were loved along the way. But you know, you were loved along the way. But you know, you were loved along the way. But you know, you were loved along the way. But you know, you were loved.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, Bob. Thanks for having me. Thanks for letting me meet Lou.
Oh,
Thank you.
hey, that was going to happen. I think it was in the cards for humanity, the good of humanity that you two
Of
met.
course.
So thank everybody for coming to B-Cube Sunday morning. Next week is Jim Wright and David Get Off My Lawn, Gerald. And I think that you could write a book, he already did, about the redemption from love and service as you watch the pictures and the write-ups of David and his grandchildren on Facebook. And if you don't follow David, you should, just to see what kind of joy grandchildren can bring to an old man's life.
If there are any burgeoning writers in the group, in the audience, David has a Patreon, which is easy to find. And if you join it, and I think it's $27 a month, which is a little steep. But what you get out of that is every Tuesday he holds a writing conference online on Zoom. You're invited to that as part of that $27 Patreon. And he will teach you the art of writing, and he will ask you to read your works, and we will critique it together as a group online. And it's a wonderfully tight-knit community, and anybody's welcome to join.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm going to have to get him to talk about that a little bit on this Sunday, because that is good. And so that said, thank you, Ken. And so as Ken strums the tune to Kumbaya, I'm going to...
Kumbaya, my love.